thanks everybody for coming. I know it's kind of end of day 3, and probably want to, get out of here and have a drink and whatnot. So we'll try and keep this sort of light and just sort of my thoughts from my perspective. So first of all, in terms of what that means, so Hollywood fantasy to enterprise usability. Hollywood fantasy is really a couple things in my mind. It's fantasizing the future. So we've seen that in movies like Terminator with Arnold Schwarzenegger looking at somebody and seeing what happens, to like Tom Cruise in Minority Report, just seeing everything happen in front of them. And it's really fantasizing what's going to happen down the road, as well as kind of romanticizing, I think, what we're doing right now. And in some cases, that's been a bit of a challenge. I mean, we've all been in that case where we see these really cool AR videos that happen, and like everything happens in front of you, and we know that's not really true yet over the last number of years, and it's sort of visionary in terms of what's happening. So to me, that's sort of the Hollywood AR, and what we're talking about is a little bit more the practical usability, and I think this is the year that we're going to see that. So I just hit the green button there, I guess. So we're actually going to do it kind of, David Letterman style, top 10 reasons why it's going to actually hit enterprise usability. And I know David Letterman's in New York and this is California, but all the same, it's maybe just an entertaining way to do this. All right, so background of ScopeAR, just for those that don't know us, is, we're a company that's based in San Francisco and Edmonton, Canada. We started about 7 or 8 years ago developing like AR step-by-step instructions for a number of companies, from Boeing to Toyota and Philips and companies like that, getting a lot of feedback on where the industry was going. We realized there were some bottlenecks and some gaps that need to be solved in order to become scalable and practical in industry. So we developed a couple products to solve that. One of our products is an authoring software that we license to our customers to allow them to build their own step-by-step instructions. And the other product is a remote assistance tool that we launched actually 2 years ago today. That's kind of that telepresence on live video with live annotations. And we actually announced markerless versions of that yesterday. So some really big things that we've, I think established and sort of led in terms of industry use of AR. So we have some good experience and I think more importantly, feedback in this. So without further ado, we're going to jump into the top 10 reasons why AR is going to hit industry usability. All right, number 10, standards are being established. And I know like everyone's really excited about that, right? Probably stick a hot needle in your eye, I guess. But the point is that industry is establishing standards, and not just industry, right? We're seeing standards being established from AR organizations like AREA, IEEE. There's groups from Lockheed Martin and Caterpillar and Procter & Gamble that established a conglomerate to put together, a report on what standards need to be in place for hardware and software, and joining them together to be, functional and usable in the industry. I know that Boeing has some individuals that are working on that type of thing as well. So as much as standards are anything that from an entrepreneur's, I guess maybe a startup entrepreneur's perspective are exciting, they're really exciting in one way. It means that you're getting credibility and being established in an industry as something that's really happening, and we need to put a footprint down in terms of how that's going to be managed. So standards are there to protect the industry, to protect customers, to make sure that there's baseline of what needs to be happened so that we can see this, this industry accelerate even faster. So number 10, standards. Number 9, real industry use cases, right? I mean, this is really what it's all about. In the last number of years, I think we've come to the show and we've had some really great POCs that we've had with really excellent customers. But that's changing a little bit, right? So I think that what we're seeing at this show in particular is that the last couple of years, it was a lot of the innovation departments that would come to the show and ask to start some sort of project that would be really cool to showcase. And those are fantastic because that's where it needs to start. Obviously, it needs to start with the innovators and the early adopters. But now we're getting to the point of seeing the field service managers and floor managers coming to the same show and saying, this isn't just about building a POC. We need to build a project that's actually solving a problem that we can measure how that's impacting our business. So there's a big transition that's starting to occur in terms of real industry use cases, and not just, hey, look what I built, it's really cool, and we're going to figure out where it goes. It's now, look what I built, it created value, and we can measure that. And we're seeing that at this show. It's a huge difference in the audience that we've seen here this week. All right, in true David Letterman style, I should just throw that, isn't that what he does? All right, number 8. Analysts are jumping on the bandwagon. And this is actually, actually proven out 2 weeks ago. I was at the Enterprise Wearable Technology Show in San Diego, and I was on a panel, and Angela McIntyre from Gartner was hosting the panel. And she gets up and introduces the panel, and she said, last year I was on this panel, and I said that industry was not ready for AR. And this year I'm on the panel saying that everyone on the panel, you guys are like the nice, shiny objects. Everybody in industry loves you. You're like the coolest things, and they can't wait to work with you. She goes, next year, I'm going to be on this panel, and I'm going to explain why industry doesn't like you. And we're like, what? This is our introduction to the panel? And her point was that right now, everyone's excited about what we're doing because it's something that can have huge impact on their business. But as we scale over the next 12 months, and we get to the point of actually solving real problems with the industry is going to be looking at us at how we support what it is that we're actually selling to them and how we're continuing to drive that into the industry and measure that and provide value to that. So then we become a commodity, which is awesome because it means to actually reach scale. So I'm really looking forward to next year when I'm on that same panel with Angela and her explaining why we're the gum on the shoe of the industry partners that are now really investing heavily because they're seeing big return on this. So the analysts and consultants, I mean, they don't always move early, but they're a really good indicator in terms of what's happening. And they're full bore. They're jumping in full feet to explain why it's important for their industry partners to look at AR and make sure they're putting a plan in place on how it's going to support and build their business. All right, number 7. Budgets are established and prices dropping. So we've seen in the past that one-off custom projects could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially. I mean, that's realistic, right? I mean, that happened in the past. When you were building projects that would take 8 or 9 months or 10 months to build, obviously that's a lot of time and it's expensive. Those budgets were so random. I mean, they were coming from innovation departments and big companies that didn't necessarily know what they were investing in or why they were doing it necessarily. But now that we're getting into the real use cases from business units within those organizations, there's established budgets that are defined to create some real return on investment. And because augmented reality and the technology and products that are available are now commoditizing the ability to do that, prices are dropping, making it scalable for the business units to say, yes, we can allocate budget towards doing something on this because we're going to show the return that it's having. And that escalates back to then getting more budget that's available. So instead of just having the, those teams of those one-offs, we happen to have a pot of money at this time, it's actually a plan in place in terms of where those budgets are coming from, how they're being applied, and what they're expecting as a result of them. Okay, number 6, HoloLens. I personally think that's a big indicator of what's happening. So we all have this vision, and we talked about it several years ago in terms of just putting on glasses and everything happening in front of you, and we knew that was a while off. Hardware companies have been working really hard. Hardware companies like ODG and Epson and Vuzix and now RealWear and Meta, I mean, they're all really driving what it is that people expect from it. But we knew what they expected is going to happen wasn't possible quite yet. I think HoloLens gives us the first glimpse into where this is really going, that you can put on glasses and just something happens magically in front of you. So for example, we brought in a piece of Caterpillar equipment to our booth for those who have been down there, and I didn't know what we were going to have until Tuesday when I went to the cat rental store and I walked around and I said, I'll take that. And we loaded it up and drove it here and put it into the booth. And last night we were able to take the HoloLens and scan a mesh for it. For those that have used it, it kind of creates this mesh and allows you to sort of understand your environment around you. Take that mesh, put it into our WorkLink software, and within an hour we were able to create instructions applied right to that mesh. So when you publish it back up to the HoloLens and you put them on, just everything happens. You can walk around it freely and not have any markers, and it's a really nice view. And just you can get instructions on how to operate that piece of equipment. If I'd had those instructions when I picked it up, I wouldn't have gone the wrong way off the start and backed into the fence behind me probably, but I did. So that's the way it goes. So yeah, we're going to see huge progress from all of the hardware companies, but I think that this is sort of a glimpse as to where we're heading, and we're super excited to work with all of them, like I said, ODG and RealWear and these guys, to see where this goes. All right, number 5. Integration really matters. Okay, this is the first show where we've been at where the number one topic of conversation for us is how does this integrate into our existing systems? Where is the information going to go and how is it being captured? How do we take historical data and processes and instructions and import that and use it into your software? So it's no longer about is AR a product that we can use. It's about how does it have an impact on our business and how does it become meaningful. So we're looking at integrations in terms of ERP and PLMs and LMS and IoT. I mean, they're all critical in terms of putting together an technology architecture that matters for that company. So it's not that AR is everything to everybody, and it doesn't even have to be complicated. But what does matter is that there's a plan in place in terms of saying we have big data and analytics and IoT and VR, and how does all of this information get delivered to somebody who needs it? Well, that's through AR, right? You can see information when it matters, where it matters. So this is a big question. It's the number one thing that's been talked to us, which means that this is moving to the next level of, again, not just these cool projects, but really planning for the future. All right, number 4. The chasm's been crossed, right? So take note to the laggards. And the last few years, I mean, I think a lot of companies like ours who are in the software space would come to this show or be able to have, on their websites or else, a list of really incredible companies that we're working with. And there's no question that those early adopters and those innovators were looking at projects that they could start to understand exactly where AR was going to go moving forward. And that type of interaction with those customers gave us the feedback on what exactly it was that we're building. Why are we doing this? How does it move forward? But then all of a sudden you get hit in the face with that chasm, that wall of, okay, these POCs have happened, but what happens next? How do we scale, right? So we're just at that point, at least for ourselves anyways, of seeing some of those early majority be able to say, hey, you know what, we're actually getting true metrics from those early adopters and those guys that are using AR technology for either step-by-step instruction or maybe some IoT integration in warehouses or potentially remote assistance. There's actual measurable information that we're getting. So yeah, we want to be on board of this. We don't want to wait until we've been run over by that train and then we try and grab onto the last car and figure out how to get on board. So we are seeing that that happen. We are seeing the chasm being crossed, and that industry partners are now saying yes, we're gonna jump into this in that early majority, which next year hopefully the graph is the big hockey stick curve, because I think we're getting really close to that. I know we'll still see some of the laggards here that I'll be asking the same questions to, and we'll have that same answer, but you guys will get on board eventually, and that's okay. All right. Number 3, software is easy. Right? It actually really is. So there's 2 things that needs to happen for technology to be accepted and integrated into industry. One is that it needs to just work, right? It needs to know that you can turn it on, whatever it is, and it just works. And the second thing is that it needs to be easy. And AR does not have to be overly complicated. It can be easy. So when we launched remote AR, like our telepresence tool 2 years ago here, we knew that there was going to be a steep learning curve to that, and we got an enormous amount of feedback. We were able to industrialize it over the last 2 years. Announcing markerless yesterday changes the game completely again. We believe it's finally at that point where it's just easy to use and it works on everything. So the power of field workers being able to be out in the field, just pulling out their device, it doesn't matter what it is, being able to share their video feed and even address things like poor bandwidth quality and annotate on that and just talk and not worry about markers and everything else changes that game. And I mean, that's happening with authoring software and hardware and everything else. The software to now create instructions, like I mentioned, that we published out on HoloLens, literally took an hour or so, and it's already on HoloLens, and you walk around that cat piece of equipment and see what's going on. So it is at the point where it's easy now. All right, number 2. The big dogs are all in. I mean, this kind of goes without saying, but Apple and Microsoft and Facebook and Unity and Samsung and Intel and the consultants, Gartner, McKinsey and Deloitte and Adeo and all the top tier VCs, they've all put their money where their mouth is in terms of believing that this is going to be something really important moving forward. And I mean, there's some really smart guys out there that work for these companies and drive their businesses that have done extremely well. I'm assuming if they're all in that this is going in the direction that we believe it is too. All right, the number 1 reason why AR will move from Hollywood to fantasy to enterprise is that, industry knows that AR is not a solution anymore, right? AR is not a method, it's an objective. Or sorry, it's a method, not an objective, right? It means that it's not about asking the question, how does AR help us? Because the first question back is, I don't know what you're trying to solve, right? The message and the question now is, we have these problems in my manufacturing environment, in our field service team. What type of products are available to make that possible to solve those problems? And we're seeing that over and over again, that these products are supporting that. I mean, even just you know, the PTC Vuforia announcement of chalk the other day validated what we announced 2 years ago as going in the right direction. This is something that we believed in, so we built, and it's been validated by other products that are doing the same types of things. It's really about the product. It's about delivering solutions that help these organizations solve real issues. So yeah, that's why I think the top 10 reasons that AR is going to go from Hollywood fantasy to enterprise reality. I hope next year I stand up here and talk about the challenges that we have and how we're solving them with supporting those clients in service level agreements. So thank you very much. I appreciate the time.